All right, ready to dive deep into active listening.
Always ready.
We're looking at Heather R. Younger's book, The Art of Active Listening. You know, at first I thought, listening, isn't that pretty basic?
Yeah, you and everyone else. But Younger makes a strong case that it's not just about hearing, it's about really understanding, and that impacts, well, everything.
Right, she even ties it to the bottom line, saying active listening affects employee loyalty, customer satisfaction.
Profitability, even. She argues it's a competitive edge in today's world.
It makes sense. Think about how frustrating it is when you feel like you're not being heard, like you're talking to a wall.
Totally. And Younger illustrates this perfectly with that story about Unhappy Lane Hospital in the book.
Oh, yeah. That multi-million-dollar client they almost lost?
Exactly.
What saved them?
Active listening. Taking the time to understand the hospital's frustrations and then, crucially, doing something about it.
It's a powerful example of how active listening isn't just about avoiding disaster.
Right. It's about building something better, creating a workplace where people feel valued, heard, like their input matters.
So how do we get there?
Younger lays out what she calls the cycle of active listening.
5 steps, right? Recognize the unsaid, seek to understand, decode, act, and close the loop. I like how she emphasizes that it's a cycle, not just a one-time thing.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing practice. You get better with practice, just like any skill. It's about constantly refining, taking action, getting feedback, adapting.
So let's break it down, starting with recognize the unsaid. This is where it gets interesting because Younger is saying we need to go beyond just the words.
Right. Facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. Those subtle cues can tell you a lot about what someone's really thinking or feeling.
It's like there's the surface, what people say, but then there's all this stuff underneath.
Like an iceberg.
Exactly.
And sometimes what's not being said is the most important part. Have you ever been in a meeting where someone's like, everything's fine, but their body language just screams otherwise?
All the time. Or that tight smile that doesn't reach their eyes. Younger even gives examples of what might be going on in people's heads at work.
Things people hesitate to say directly, but their behavior hints at.
Exactly. Like, I wish my boss would acknowledge my hard work, or this new project is stressing me out, but I'm afraid to say anything.
Spot on. And if we miss those subtle cues, we miss crucial information. Information that impacts our relationships, decisions, everything.
So how do we get better at picking up on those unspoken cues?
Well, Younger talks about cultivating a listening mindset.
What's that?
It's about approaching conversations with genuine curiosity, setting aside our own assumptions, being open to learning something new. Sounds simple, but it can be tough.
Oh, I bet. It's easy to get stuck in our own heads, our own agendas.
Right. But Younger argues that to truly understand someone, we need to let go of our preconceptions and truly listen with an open mind.
She uses that story of Sarah and Kate to illustrate this point.
Oh, yeah. Kate, the manager, so focused on blaming her employees, she missed what was actually causing their dissatisfaction.
Classic example of how assumptions can blind us. So how do we avoid that trap?
Younger suggests being more deliberate about gathering information from diverse sources. Don't just rely on people who agree with you. Actively seek out different perspectives.
Especially from people who might have different experiences or opinions.
Absolutely. The more diverse the input, the richer our understanding will be.
So we've talked about recognizing what's not being said and then approaching the conversation with curiosity.
Right, seeking to understand. But before we jump to conclusions or try to fix things, Younger says there's another important step.
Right.
Exactly. It's like hitting pause. We've gathered all this information, but now we need to make sense of it.
It's not just about absorbing, it's about analyzing. Figuring out the root cause of the issue.
Spot on. What are the potential consequences of different actions? It's like that saying, slow down to speed up.
Younger has this story about a team member who asked for more paid time off. Instead of just saying yes or no, she took time to think it through.
Researched industry benchmarks, talked to other managers. That decoding process helped her come up with a solution that worked for everyone.
Makes sense. She avoided potential problems by taking the time to really understand the situation.
Exactly. Decoding can help us uncover flawed thinking, increase collaboration, avoid those knee-jerk reactions that might not actually solve anything.
It's tempting to just jump in and fix things, especially when someone's upset. But sometimes taking action without understanding can do more harm than good.
Younger really stresses that point. It can lead to miscommunication, wasted effort, even damaged relationships.
So we've recognized the unsaid, sought to understand, and decoded. Now what? Time for action, right?
You got it. Step 4, act. This is where we put all that listening and understanding into practice. Show the other person that we've heard them and their input matters.
It's not enough to just say, I hear you. We have to actually demonstrate it through our actions.
Exactly. Younger uses this great analogy of Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
So when we act on the feedback, we create a positive ripple effect.
Right. Strengthening relationships, building trust, fostering a more collaborative environment.
But sometimes taking action is hard. What if there are budget limitations or the issue is really sensitive?
It can feel overwhelming. That's where Younger's framework for sustainable change comes in.
Tell me about it.
She says real change requires three things. First, recognizing the need for change.
Makes sense. What else?
Cultivating desire for that change within the team. And finally, and this is key, building stamina to keep going even when it gets tough.
So it's not just a one-time thing, it's a process.
Right. It's about moving beyond checking boxes, embracing change as an ongoing journey. It might mean challenging the status quo, experimenting, learning from mistakes.
Persistence is key. It's easy to get discouraged when you don't see results right away.
Absolutely. But real change often happens incrementally. It's those small, consistent actions that add up to something big.
Okay, we've listened, understood, decoded, taken action. What's the final step?
Close the loop. It's about going back to the person and letting them know what you've done or what you plan to do based on their feedback.
So completing that communication cycle,
Yeah.
making sure they feel heard and acknowledged.
Exactly. It's about accountability and transparency. Demonstrating respect for the person who shared their thoughts. Think about it. Have you ever given feedback and never heard anything back?
The worst. It makes you feel like your opinion doesn't matter at all.
Right. Closing the loop prevents that. It shows you value their input, that you're committed to creating an environment where everyone feels respected.
Sometimes, though, closing the loop can be tricky. What if you can't implement the feedback exactly as they suggested?
Younger says it shouldn't be just a formality. It's about having a genuine conversation, explaining your reasoning, expressing gratitude for their willingness to share. Even if you can't do exactly what they said, you can still acknowledge their perspective.
And explain how you are addressing the issue.
Right.
You know, thinking about all this makes me wonder about active listening in the virtual world.
Good point.
It seems like it would be harder to pick up on those nonverbal cues, to really connect with someone when you're not face-to-face.
That's a great observation. Active listening in a digital environment definitely has unique challenges.
But maybe we can use technology to actually enhance our communication.
I think so. We just need to adapt our approach.
Okay, so how do we actively listen when we're online?
Well, let's think about each step of that cycle and how we might tweak it for the virtual world, starting with recognizing the unsaid.
It's definitely trickier when you're not physically present.
True, but not impossible. We just need to look for different cues.
So instead of body language, what should we be paying attention to?
Think about the tools we use. Video calls, email, instant messaging. Each offers clues about what someone might be feeling, even if they don't say it directly.
Like what?
In a video call, someone might say they're fine, but their facial expression tells a different story.
Oh yeah, like that forced smile or those tight lips that say, I'm really not okay.
Exactly. Or their tone of voice might be flat or hesitant, even if their words are positive. And for people who keep their cameras off, we need to be extra attentive to their words, tone of voice, even their response time.
So longer pauses, shorter responses, those could be red flags.
They could be. Not jumping to conclusions, but being aware of those shifts in communication.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it like that. I rely so much on those nonverbal cues in person.
It's a whole layer of communication that's often missing online. That's why we need to be more intentional. Younger even suggests paying attention to background details during video calls,
Really?
using those visual cues to connect and gather insights.
Like what kind of details?
A child's artwork on the wall, a pet wandering by, a bookshelf full of interesting books. Little glimpses into their personal life that help us connect on a human level.
Even when we're miles apart.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to seeking to understand virtually, we need to be deliberate about creating opportunities for open communication.
It's easy to fall into that trap of just focusing on tasks and deadlines when you're online.
It is. We have to make a conscious effort to have those informal check-ins, virtual coffee breaks, even just a quick phone call to see how someone's doing.
Going beyond just getting the work done.
Building those connections. Younger also talks about setting expectations around camera use.
Oh yeah, it can get awkward when some people have them on and others don't.
Right. It's about finding a balance, Having cameras on can enhance communication, but we also need to respect individual preferences.
Maybe set guidelines for when cameras are expected, like during team meetings, but allow flexibility during individual work time.
I like that. And if someone consistently chooses to have their camera off, have a respectful conversation about it.
See if there are any concerns you can address.
Make sure everyone feels comfortable and respected.
Okay, so recognizing the unsaid and seeking to understand virtually. What about decoding? Seems even tougher when you're bombarded with messages and notifications.
It's definitely a challenge. That's why creating boundaries and dedicating time for reflection is crucial.
So important.
Schedule blocks in your calendar for quiet time. Use a note-taking app to capture your thoughts, whatever works for you. The key is to step back and think things through.
Be intentional about creating space for that deeper processing.
Right. And just like in person, collaborating during this decoding process can be super valuable.
Even though we're not physically together.
Absolutely. There are so many tools for virtual collaboration. Shared documents, project management platforms, even virtual whiteboards.
So we can still brainstorm, share insights, challenge each other's assumptions.
Exactly. Create that virtual space to make sense of the information and develop a shared understanding.
Tapping into that collective intelligence.
Right. And that collaborative approach is especially helpful when it comes to taking action in a virtual setting. Since we don't have those in-person interactions, we need to be super clear about our intentions.
Over-communicate to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Use screen sharing to walk through your thought process, create detailed action plans, record video messages to provide context, and follow up regularly to keep everyone in the loop.
Proactive and transparent.
Got it. And finally, closing the loop in a virtual setting can take a little extra creativity.
Yeah, it's easy to let things slip through the cracks when you're not physically there.
True. So schedule those virtual check-ins or feedback sessions.
Using video calls for a more personal touch, or emails to acknowledge input and outline actions taken.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of a simple thank you or a quick message of appreciation.
To make people feel valued and heard.
Absolutely. It's all about finding ways to replicate that personal touch, even in a digital environment.
So, ready to distill all of this into those 10 key takeaways?
Let's do it.
All right, lay it on me. What are the top 10 takeaways?
Okay, number 1, and this is a biggie. Active listening is a strategic advantage, not just some fluffy, soft skill.
So it's not just about being nice.
It is about being nice, but it's also about being smart. Younger presents actual data showing that companies with strong listening cultures do better.
They outperform their competitors.
Yep. In today's world where everyone's vying for attention, making someone feel truly heard, that's powerful.
I like that. What's number 2?
Master Younger's 5-step cycle of active listening.
Recognize the unsaid. Seek to understand.
Decode, act, and close the loop. It's a practical framework, a roadmap.
Makes sense. Number 3.
Pay attention to those nonverbal cues, both in person and online.
They often reveal more than words, right?
Way more. Are their shoulders slumped? Voice tight? Taking forever to respond to email?
Ooh, good point about the emails.
Right. It's like learning a whole new language, the language of body language and digital cues.
Okay, number 4.
Cultivate a listening mindset. Go into conversations curious, ready to learn something new from the other person's perspective.
Park your assumptions at the door.
Exactly. Which brings us to number 5. Minimize assumptions. Don't rely on what you think you know.
Be open to new information.
Yes. Actively seek out different perspectives, especially from people who might disagree with you.
That's F1 sometimes. What's next?
Number 6 is empathy. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to understand their emotions and perspectives, even if you don't agree.
Empathy. Such a powerful tool.
It really is. Okay, number 7, be present. Fully present.
Put the phone away, close the laptop.
Minimize those distractions. Give the other person your undivided attention.
Basic respect, but so important.
It really is. Okay, number 8. This one's key. Decode. Take some time to process everything before you jump to action.
Don't just react, be strategic.
Exactly. Analyze the information, look for patterns, understand the root cause.
Makes sense. What's number 9?
Take meaningful action. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Show them their input matters.
Right. And finally, number 10, close the loop. Circle back to the person and let them know what you've done or what you plan to do based on their feedback.
Even if you can't give them exactly what they want.
Right. Acknowledge their input. Explain your reasoning. Make them feel seen and heard.
Love it. So those are Younger's top 10 tips.
Yep. 10 key takeaways for mastering the art of active listening.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools for communicating better.
That's what we were hoping for. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. But even small improvements in our listening can make a big difference in our relationships, our work, our well-being.
And who knows, maybe we'll inspire others to become better listeners too.
Now that would be amazing.